Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from inkbutterfly.com. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Project Share Project blog hop video. Okay, so first Saturday of the month of course, and it's April already. Myself, Vicky and Heather get together. We share projects once a month and we also do a little blog hop every month. So this time we're using our favourite technique. So it's all the details will be in the blog post that's linked in the description, and from there you'll be able to hop onto all the other guys' projects as well. So favourite technique then, where do you start? There's so many good techniques. So I think the classic favourite is heat embossing, but I've really got into ink blending as well, so I thought I'd combine the two. A bit of emboss resist, but a bit of blending, bit of ombre, a bit of loveliness, and of some die cutting to boot, because you know die cutting is just awesome, right? So yeah, narrowing it down to one single thing was a little tricky. Okay, so doing my lovely creating backgrounds, I think that's probably the surmise of my favourite thing. All these techniques come together for this primary thing, to create my own backgrounds, to showcase a simple sentiment. So Paradise Garden is the bundle that we're going to use to create this card. I've got these lovely like leaf images. I just used one on this sample. I think I'm going to change it a little bit and use some of the other ones as well. Obviously this is in nice traditional greens, with saucy foam, granny apple green, and a bit of shaded spruce, just to add in some dark. And then it's got a great set of dies. There's also a hybrid embossing folder. I used that yesterday, if you check out Instagram on that one. So dies wise, I'm just going to use this hexagon to cut out the sentiments. Okay, right, let's go, and I'll show you how to frame that up. Right, ink blending, cool. So the white willow works just fine for ink blending, and when you're doing a lot of layering and that, you probably don't want bulky thick cardstock. Just sanding off a little bit of few fuzzies from where I'd cut that down. So this is just a full card panel. It's 4 inches by 5 3/4, and we're going to need something to protect the surface. So you know, you can use grid paper, scrap paper, whatever you've got, doesn't really matter. We're not lining anything up, so it's just some plain paper will do. And we're going to go completely off-piste, because we're going to use pink to do leaves, and I'm going to take an opportunity to use some more of the retiring in colours. So we're going to use Pretty in Pink, Petunia Pop with Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so we'll start with our lighter colour, and you know what, I'm thinking on my feet. It's not always a good thing. I did wonder about just doing a gradient rather than but I think I'll stick with the plan. So Pretty in Pink, we're going to start with the lightest colour, one of the blending brushes. Okay, so I've got about 15-ish, and I've got sort of a light and dark for a lot of the colours, but not a brush for every colour, because yeah, I wish I had the funds for one for every colour, but I don't. So one for colour family, and then as I grew the collection, I realised I needed sort of dark and light, particularly for like things like blue and green. You know, when you've got soft seafoam and shaded spruce, those two colours are quite drastically different. So I still want to keep a little bit of a highlight in the middle, so I don't want to go crazy into the middle. So I'm going to start about there. What's that? About a third of the way down. And I'm not actually gonna go for anything like, you know, I don't want this super smooth necessarily. You can do that if you want, but I don't think it's necessary for what we're going to do today. Okay, so the white willow is perfect for this because that's what we're going for. If you're really going for something really nice and smooth and you want that look, I would go with basic white for that. Okay, so returning colours, so all that stuff has already landed on the last chance, so anything that's in Pretty in Pink, Petunia Pop, Peach Pie, Shy Shamrock or Summer Splash, that's a great colour. I like this pink as well, and Petunia Pop, oh, I like them all. Is on that last chance list, so it's not gone, but the pads, the inks, the ribbons and that do sell out quite quickly. So if it is something that you want before they disappear, or you want to stock up on stuff so that you can carry on using it beyond retirement, this is Petunia Pop, then go ahead and have a look in there. Ooh, whoops, I should have taken that off a little bit. Oops, never mind. It's a very strong colour. We'll work it. It's fine. So if I just have a little bit of a heavier spot on the other side, just to sort of balance that out a little bit. And when we go around with the Blackberry Bliss, it will probably disappear a little bit. Okay, so blending that in, you can go back as well if you think you've lost some of that lighter pink. Go back, put some more in, and it will help that gradient flow a little better. I did it again. Start off your paper, guys. Oh dear, rookie mistakes, but like I say, it's all good. It'll be fine. Let's do the same on the other end. What was I saying? Yeah. So everything from the current annual and the mini catalogue that is retiring will have now gone on to that last chance list, so just check that out. The website's been revamped a little bit, so if you shop, I think it's under offers or something like that, or specials maybe, you'll see those, and some things I've got a discount on them as well, so it's worth checking that out. So again, I'm just gonna pop in a little bit more of that lighter pink, just to help that blend through a little bit. There we go. And now I think I might just take that a little bit further off to the edge a little bit. So I only want the blackberry to sort of accent it. There we go. That's cool. Looks fine. And then, like I say, the darkest of them all is going to be Blackberry Bliss, one of my favourite colours. Okay, and I'm going to use that same brush to take off a bit of that. This is my sort of dark pinky purpley brush. So, and then I'm just going to literally just go around the edges here. This is one of my older ink pads, so it's even though it's a dark colour, it's a little drier. Sometimes that's a good thing. a little bit more control. But obviously if you're doing something where you want to apply a lot of colour, it can be a little frustrating. But so it depends on what you're doing. But building it up, you know, gives you that little bit more control over what you're doing. Okay, and I am going to take it just a little bit into the sides here as well, so you get a completely different sort of gradient of colour, but I've still got that highlight. And the other tip is get a piece of scrap to hold on to this. This is a load of ink on this, right? I'm just going to intensify this bit. But you'll notice that even though this is the white willow, it's not pilling, it's holding up. Okay, so those corners are really nice and dark now. Look at that. It's that dramatic look. You've got to have the dark to make the light, if you know what I mean. Can't see it otherwise. Just a little bit more on this end as well, just to balance that up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so this needs to dry, because if we try and heat emboss over that, all that powder is going to stick to the wet ink. Okay, so again, if you think you've pulled out a colour, go back in. So you could kind of it's a bit like time bows. You could faff about with this kind of thing for a little while. But sometimes you've got to know when to stop. But you do find, though, what you will find is that the more you work it, kind of layering it up just gently, that blend will just become really nice and smooth. Okay, I'm really loving that. I'm really loving it. Oops. Look at the state of this scrap paper. Bit more petunia, just bringing that in a little bit. And then I'll just bring in a bit more of that, because it's the moisture that's going to make the ink move, yeah? There we go. And I've still got that highlight in the middle. Cool. I think that looks wicked. Right, I think it goes that way. I think that highlight's kind of not in the centre, which is fine. That's okay. It gives you some orientation to the whole project. Okay, so we're going to have to come back to this, because I could I'm going to dry it with a heat tool, but it's loud. So let me do that off screen, and we'll come back and we'll do the heat embossing. Okay, my panel's nice and dry now, or dry enough probably. Okay, so once you've done that, we're going to do the heat embossing. So I'm just going to bring in some anti-static powder. This will also help with if there is any residual dampness on the card. That will help. So just pounce a bit of that on, like so. Just wipe away any excess. That's cool. Let's pop that out the way. Where am I going to put this? Let's put it back in the drawer. Okay. There we go. Right, so we've got a selection of these leaf stamps, and we're going to use the clear Versamark ink to do our embossing. So I'm going to start with the bigger leaf, and we're going to pop that one across the middle. So we'll do a couple of these. So this is going to be clear So you're probably not going to be able to see a lot of what I am doing, but when you're doing it in person, you can hold this up to the light and see where your images are. The other tip is to actually just apply some powder. Okay, so if you're really struggling to see where those are and you don't want them to overlap, if you just tip your powder on, it's not going to heat set until so it is a bit damp. It's catching some of the powder, but actually that happened on my original sample. It kind of gives you a bit of a if you give it a good sharp tap, a lot of it comes off. It gives you this mottled and textured sort of look, so I'm actually not that bothered by that. If it bothers you, just make sure you've dried it as much as possible. Okay, just tip that back in. But again, so like I say, this is just a little tip. If you are struggling to see, if you chuck your powder on, especially if it's a coloured powder, you'll be able to see. Right, so I've got a couple of those big ones in, so now I'm going to use a smaller leaf, and we'll twist it around and get different parts of that leaf showing. Okay, something over here, and something over here. Yep. Okay, and then we've got this even smaller one as well, so let's pop in some of those across the edge there. Could use the bigger stamp, but you know, you've got different by using a different image, you're going to get a different look, right? So entirely up to you whether you use one stamp, 3 stamps. You can use a background as well. Okay, I reckon that looks good. So let's pop away our ink. And I'm going to hold on to this with our reverse tweezers. And then we can add, probably when you've got a big busy background like this, sometimes you've only got so many places to hold on to it. Right, let's chuck that on, tap it off, and we'll deal with the excess in a minute. So the edges of, I must have been focusing my heat on the edges and not done much on the centre, or not as much on the centre as I thought. Okay. Okay, let's put them all there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a good sharp tap now, and if you do it on the back, you won't knock anything off that you're not supposed to. Twist that round. That's okay, that will do for me. Okay, let's pop that back in. So it looks like you use a lot of powder every time, but you don't. Most of it goes back into the pot. Okay, and now we need to heat set it. So this is going to be loud. We'll get the gun. The heat tool has 2 speeds. You want the speed 2. I've got my tweezers. It's going to be hot. So I use yeah, so if you use the high heat setting, and you'll see I'll heat a bit on the front and a bit on the back, okay, but you're just going to heat this until that dull powder, so it's quite dull now, will go nice and shiny. Okay, so just hold on to your seats while this is a bit noisy, and we'll get that done. Right, so get that mostly cool it off in the first instance, and then I put a big block on that to flatten that out while it's warm, because it will warp somewhat, all that intense heat that we've got going on. Just wiping my surface. I can feel there's stray powder before I flicked it around. Okay, so that helps a little bit. I would leave it a little bit longer normally, but obviously we're trying to get a video done. So now these central bits here, right, so on my original sample, see how bright white these are? Okay, so you can go over that a little more and make those pop if you want. If you don't want, leave it. Okay, but you can sort of it almost feels like you've used different coloured embossing powders because we've coloured the card. Okay, all right. There's probably a few little gaps here and there where probably could have put in another image, but it's cool. Let's move those from there because I'm going to need to die cut some stuff, so we'll leave that just to finish drying, and we'll bring in scrap cardstock. So I'm going to need a bit of white, and I'm going to need some Blackberry Bliss, which I didn't even think about getting out. So let's just go through the scrap bin. Here we go. That all looks like it's a good one. There we go. Because we are going to need a hexagon from that set cut in the Blackberry. So let's do that. Voila, beautiful colour, beautiful, it's so dark, beautiful. And then we'll use our Blackberry ink where I've put it, there we go, to stamp our sentiment on this scrap cardstock here. Comes that, and we will need to die cut this one as well. So because we're cutting round something, we want to make sure it's lined up and not going to shift. So you want to pop that over the top and then secure that with a little bit of low tack tape, and we will run that through again. There we go. And this die as well makes the cutest little debossed little edge on there. Hopefully you can see that. It's cool. This one we're going to chop in half. So anything with a straight side like this is really good for elongating and making sort of faux layers, if you like. Okay, so I'm just going to pop some seal onto those corners there, and we can just add that on, and you can make that border shorter and fatter as you want. I made it a little wider on my sample. Okay, so that gives you that sort of layered look. And then we decide where we're going to put our sentiment and which way up this is going to go. I think it goes that way up, and I think it goes there, which means our lovely ribbon, this is another last chance. So the gold goes really beautifully with the blackberry. What is this called? Metallic ribbon in white and gold, I think. Doesn't actually say, does it? Oh yeah, gold and white metallic ribbon. Okay, so we will just use some tape to secure this across the back. No point using posh glue. We'll just do this, line it up, and just hold that in place with that. And then when we stick it onto the card base, it's all gonna be sort of sandwiched in, for want of a better phrase. I think we'll just use seal for this one. Didn't realise it would take so long to film this, but so when you're sort of making a sample, you just sort of away with yourself. I don't realise how long some things take. Right, let's pop that on. Just a white card base, because we've got that white hexagon. I think it all sort of ties in. Get your border at the bottom, and it's because it's warped. I would, if you walk your hand up, if that makes sense, it will help with that warping as well. Okay, and then you just want to reinforce your crease. There we go. We can now, because I haven't popped up the panel, I am going to pop up the sentiment. I'm going to put them top and bottom so that they straddle this ribbon. Comes that. Okay, and I tied a little knot as an embellishment. So when you find glue dots are by far the best for adhering bows and knots and anything else that sort of, I don't want that as long. Okay, so that gives it a nice little bit of texture. Okay, and the finishing touch is going to be these iridescent foil gems. These are also last chance. Pokey tool there. So again, find you're ever so much more generous with your precious when it's about to retire. So we're going to go crazy. we'll have 3 down here, and we'll have 2 up here, so you've still got an odd number. Just to sort of tie all those things together. Okay, right, so et voila. This is my ombre heat embossed card. Okay, hope you like it. Okay, this is the original. I think I like this one better. I think I like the fact that I did the white. I did some of the leaves before I even applied any ink, and it brings out the white a little bit more of an emboss resist. But needless to say, really nice effect nonetheless. Okay, and that is my card for today. Don't forget, this is part of a blog hop. The link to my blog is in the description, and that will take you to the other Project Share Project blogs that are participating today. Okay, so what's up next? Oh, there's loads going on at the moment. There's always loads going on. So hopefully you caught my Stamp Around UK video. We've got Stamp Around the World in a couple of weeks as well, so look out for that. Okay, lovely to be part of your day. Hope you've enjoyed it. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.